The stained glass windows at St Philip's are some of the finest in the world. They were made for the newly expanded parish church in St Philip's at a time when the city was expanding rapidly. The designer was none other than Mr Edward Burne-Jones. They were made in the workshop of Mr William Morris, and all thanks to the generosity of Miss Emma Villiers-Wilkes. I am Julius Alfred Chaplin, architect and go-between. This exchange is based upon letters that exist between our four characters.
Dear Mr Chaplin, regarding the windows at St Philip's, I've spoken to Mr Burne-Jones, and he was quite certain that the Good Shepherd and Christ at the Well would not be subjects likely to go well with the east window, as it would be impossible with the multiplicity of figures to get the sort of colour which would go well with the east window. Clearly, the crucifixion is the proper subject to balance the Nativity. I will also suggest the Transfiguration, but it seems too much like the Ascension. I'll write once I've spoken to Burne-Jones on Monday. Yours faithfully, William Morris. P.S. Please mention these thoughts to Miss Wilkes. I'm hoping she'll be amenable to the ideas. I've heard she can be a little pedantic.
Dear Miss Wilkes, would it be possible to visit you on Tuesday? I have some suggestions from Mr Burne-Jones and Mr Morris regarding the windows at St Philip's. They were thinking the crucifixion or the nativity. Or we can discuss all of the possibilities where we meet. Yours faithfully, Mr Chaplin.
Mr Chaplin! No, I will not be able to see you tomorrow, as this morning I received a letter informing me that 4 of my cousins from Knoll will be coming and spending the day with me. I shall be in Birmingham on Thursday, and will call at your offices around 4 o'clock. Please make sure you are available. Regarding the windows, I have accepted the Nativity and consented to the Good Shepherd for the north window. I think either Christ leading the Praetorium or the Agony in the Garden are 2 grand subjects. And of course we must see the designs for the arrangement beforehand, so we can positively decide which one goes in there. May I just mention that I positively dislike the inclusion of cattle in the Nativity. I consider them quite out of place. They would surely have been removed on such an occasion. Will you kindly ask Mr Morris to return my print and card of the Good Shepherd? Yours truly, E.C. Villiers-Wilkes. Oh, and I mean it about the cattle.
Dear Mr Morris, I see what you mean about Miss Wilkes. She's told me in no uncertain terms that there is to be no cattle in the nativity scene, as she positively dislikes them. Would you kindly pass the message on to Mr Burne-Jones? She would like the designs as soon as possible. Oh, and could you return her print of the Good Shepherd? I feel the more we can do to placate her, the easier the job will be in the long run. Yours faithfully, J.A. Shafford.
Mr Morris, what does she mean about no cattle? Our Lord was born in a stable. I mean, what does she expect to see in there? A 3-piece band playing a Verdi opera, perhaps? Kindly inform her that she'll get the sketches when they're ready. I am an artiste, and greatness cannot be rushed. Regards, Burne-Jones.
Dear Mr Chaplin, well, I mentioned the cattle and the sketches to Burne-Jones. He seemed pensive, but I'm sure he'll come round to the idea eventually. He must be left to think he has a free hand, or I fear he won't take the commission. I'll give it a few days, then mention it again. Meantime, let's see if we can get a decision on the other windows so we can get those designed. Yours faithfully, W. Morris.
Dear Mr Chaplin, I have decided on the Nativity for the north window, and will consent to the crucifixion for the south window, as I think that these 2 subjects are the connections between the lead-up to the Ascension. Whilst I am happy for Mr Burne-Jones to have artistic license where needs be, I feel that the inclusion of a pelican and Mr Gladstone into the design are needless fripperies and should be discouraged in future. However, I am glad he's left out the cattle. Regarding the crucifixion, I wish it to be as least dreadful as possible. I will leave it to Mr. Burne-Jones, who I am confident will not treat it like the ordinary dreadful pictures that I always see. No nonsense this time, please. Yours truly, E.C. Villiers-Wilkes.
Dear Miss Wilkes, I do concur with you in respect to the treatment of the subjects, and I will write to Mr. Morris this evening. He wrote to me on Saturday and said, "You may be sure that we will do our best to make the new windows all they could be." And he is quite confident Mr. Burne-Jones will do nothing but what is right in respect to the designs.
Mr. Morris, I have excelled myself this time. I have hidden several cows and a donkey amongst the haystacks. Well, let's see if she can spot them before they get built.
Dear Mr. Morris, let's get the designs made up to scale. This must be done first so as to see how the perspective looks once in place. Please have the designs ASAP.
Dear Mr. Chatwin, sir, you will have your designs as soon as they have been sufficiently altered to remove all the hidden cattle. May I suggest, to speed the process along, Miss Wilkes has no contact with Mr. Burne-Jones. Her suggestions seem only to spur him into further mischief making. Just assure her that Mr. Burne-Jones and I will do what we can to please her, so long as we do not have to do what in our opinion will spoil the works. Burne-Jones's designs are sure to be perfectly serious and solemn. That is, once the comedy skeletons have been removed. Yours faithfully, William Morris.
Dear Mr. Morris, as soon as the designs are approved, it will be well for you to come to an agreement as to payment. Our solicitor and trustee have suggested this in a previous case. Miss Wilkes' health is not great, and I'm wary, especially in light of the problems we've had so far. Oh, and does Mr. Burne-Jones realise that the shape of the window is concave, as this has a tendency to elongate the shape of the figures? I mention this as people have remarked in the past that the figures in the present window are too long for their height. I hope it doesn't cause too much inconvenience. Dear Mr. Morris, good news! I have shown the designs of the two windows to Mrs. Villiers-Wilkes, and she's very happy indeed and begs that you proceed with the work forthwith. She thought she spotted the vague outline of a cow in one of the hay bales, but I persuaded it was just a trick of the light. Let's get the workmen in now to measure the shape of the window and the curve. We must move fast before she changes her mind. Yours faithfully, J.A. Chapman.
Mr. Morris, they'll be ready when they're ready. You cannot rush greatness. Greatness arrives at its own speed and will not be hurried for anyone. Please inform her that if she interferes again, I shall place Morris dancers in the background.
Dear Mr. Chatwin, it has now been more than 6 months since you wrote to Mr. Morris regarding the windows at the cathedral. I wish you to write to him because at the moment I think we should have one, if not both, of the designs sent down to us for authority. Please write to him and hurry him along. Yours truly, E.C. Villiers-Wilkes.
They're going in. The Morris dancers are going in. I warned her.
Dear Mr. Chatwin, I have shown the photos of the crucifixion and the nativity to Canon Bowlby, Mr. Albert and Mr. Clark, and we are all as delighted with them. Of course, we are very anxious to see them in their places. Please write to Mr. Morris and say all you possibly can to urge him to put more workmen on and have them completed without delay. I do hope they'll be in before Christmas. With kind regards, E.C. Villiers-Wilkes.
Dear Miss Wilkes, I have written to Messrs. Burne-Jones and Morris, stating your wishes to have the windows in place before the end of the year. The following is their reply.
We must ask you to accept our assurance that we will do what is possible to meet Miss Villiers-Wilkes' wishes and our own to get the windows out of hand. But the length of time to execute the work depends first on Mr. Burne-Jones.
And I don't rush for anyone.
And afterwards, with the uncontrollable circumstances connected with producing and fitting stained glass windows, any attempt to estimate the time required is of no value, as we have found from experience.
Basically, sit tight and you'll get them when we're done.
Well, despite all the problems in artistic strops, the windows were fitted, the artists and architects were paid, and Miss Willis was a very happy lady indeed. I think you'll all agree they do look rather splendid. Just don't mention the lack of cattle.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming here and listening to our chat. Why don't you go inside now and have a look at my beautiful, beautiful windows? They are absolutely stunning. But if you do go in and have a look, if you see any cattle, will you come and tell me, please? Thank you very much.
Mayfield.
Ah, that's it, yeah.